And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Twitch debut that we've been hyping up. We have a huge, massive, action-packed show for you today, featuring from the Connecticut Whales, Sophia, Agostinelli, and Anya Battaligno, who Anya is also the NWHL Players Association Director. From Nova Caps a little later in hour 2, we're going to have George Foussekis from Nova Caps. And in a few moments, I'll be joined by Russell Hartman from Tilted Ice and Forever Blueshirts up in New York, the New York Rangers fan blog and podcast. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, you can join the Txht Patreon community by going to patreon.com/TXHT Hockey. That is patreon.com/TSHD Hockey, and I thank you all for watching this debut episode here on Twitch. Quick little history. This is the Experience Hockey Talk. As I mentioned at the beginning, my name is Michael Lindenbaum. I've been doing this show since the 2015-16 season. Started on Tour Radio Network, then went over to SoundCloud for a while. Then we were on the WBGR Sports Network up until last month, and we decided to make the move to Twitch because we had been utilizing Facebook Live, and what a better place to do this than on Twitch, where we can reach so many people who love hockey. They can come here, watch the show, and enjoy the show. And with that, Russell.
Hey.
You again.
How are you?
It's you again.
I
know, it's just so disappointing, But real quick, because
on the Twitch starting, man. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Now real quick, because this is our Twitch debut, why don't you give the people a little history on yourself real quick?
Okay, so like Mike said, my name is Russell. I'm from New York City. I help run a New York Rangers blog on the internet. I host a Rangers podcast, actually 3, under the Tilted Ice banner. I'm involved in hockey media, just studied journalism in college, so I knew I couldn't really play the game. I'm too small, but I always wanted to be involved with the game in some way. So media and writing and doing things like that was my way to become involved with the game. And that's where I'm at right now. And I met Mike a few months ago, and I've been on his show. I've met him at a fan con a few months ago, and it's been fun.
Yeah, it was interesting, especially doing, I'm sorry, I'm talking to Sophia real quick. Welcome to the debut of TXHT, where I run everything by myself. So give me a second. I have an engineer, but my engineer, we did not get to have a, we did not get to add, what's it called, we did not get to add, do a test run. That's the correct words. A test run.
Do a test run, okay.
Yes, you know how that works, Russell. You yes. Run test runs when you do your podcast, Tilted Ice.
Most times, yeah.
The biggest test run that Dixon and I did this morning was just a sound check to make sure that everyone can hear through my old phone. So
I can hear. I'm just gonna you can hear me, right?
Yep, we're gonna. All right, so Sophia's there. I don't know what Skype did, so I'm not allowed to mute anybody for some odd reason. So Sophia, if you could just mute your mic real quick, and then we'll. When I say, hey, we're bringing in this person, well, unmute your mic.
All right, sounds good.
This is the test run that we were talking about that we never got to do. Thanks, Skype. We love you so much. But seriously though, Russell, we saw it this morning on Facebook and Twitter. The World Junior Championships ended last night with Team Canada winning the gold over Team Sweden. But it's not about Canada winning the gold that everyone is talking about. It is what New York Rangers prospect Lias Andersson did when he received his silver medal. He did not want it wrapped around his head or draped over his head like they normally do. He just wanted it to be handed to him, and the guy told him, no, you have to have it put over your head and around your neck. And so the moment he got it, he takes it off and then throws it over the glass into the crowd. Real quick, like I mentioned, he's a Rangers prospect. You cover the Rangers a lot. What are your thoughts on what Lias Andersson did last night at the World Junior Championships?
So, immediately after this happened, I knew there was going to be two sides to this whole thing here. There was going to be people saying it was disrespectful, and there was going to be the people saying that you got to love the kid's passion. I am definitely on the side of loving the kid's passion, because look, Lias Andersson during the tournament said, if you're not first, you're last. He said that before the gold medal game happened. He said that before, I believe even before the medal round. He said, if you're not first, you're last. We're not playing for the silver. We're playing for that gold. And before this happened, Sweden was actually my pick to go all the way, so I was pretty shocked that they lost to Canada. But the fact that he chucked into the crowd, it shows the type of, passion and the type of player he is. He didn't want that silver. He really wanted the gold. And yeah, should he have chucked it that far? I don't know. But the fact that he was just like, no, this is not what I came here for. I came to win. You want to see that in a player that your team has drafted or a player that could possibly be on your team in the next few years. And I think that made me like Lias Andersson even more. And I talked to a bunch of my Ranger fan friends last night too, and it made a lot of them like him more also. Just to see someone with that kind of drive to win already, he's going to be a very welcome addition to the Rangers when he makes a team, which will hopefully be next year.
Yeah, and actually our good friend Shaggy, who comments all the time on our streams, whether we're live Facebook Live, Twitch, or Twitter, and now Twitch. First off, he says, good morning. Dixon goes, Shagster is in the building. Shaggy goes on to say, is that undeserved flack against Lias Andersson. You win gold, you win bronze, you lose silver.
It's true, yeah. It's like the silver you have to lose a game to get. Like, my idea, I don't know how it will be received around the world, but my idea would be if you're in the gold medal game and you lose, you get the bronze in the third place game. It shouldn't be the third place game. That second game that takes place should be for the silver. Because if you lose, it doesn't make sense to get the second best medal, I feel like. But that's my opinion on it.
I mean, that's an interesting concept, but at the same time, You do have the two best teams playing, or the two top teams playing in the championship game, playing for the championship. So you could have a few headaches involved with that. But taking a look back at the World Junior Championships, what were your overall thoughts on that?
I love World Juniors. I thought that the World Juniors, I think they might actually be more exciting than the men's Olympic bracket this year, because we get to see all of these up-and-coming prospects, and some of these guys have been drafted, some have not been drafted, but I was really excited to see Rasmus Dahlin play for Sweden, excited to see the Russian team play, because they have some interesting guys on there. The Americans had a fantastic team led by Kiefer Bellows and Joey Anderson this year, so I was really into World Juniors this year, and every year they're really fun, because, these guys, they don't get many opportunities on the world stage when they're this young, and this is their moment to shine. And for some of them, like last year, Nico Hischier played himself into the number one spot in the NHL entry draft because of his performance in World Juniors. So you never know who can make a massive impression. And this year, guys like Kiefer Bellows stepped up. Lias Andersson, I think he had 6 goals in the tournament. He stepped up. You got to see what kind of player Rasmus Dahlin is going to be. It's just, World Juniors is so fun to watch. These young kids just go at it. And that outdoor game between the United States and Canada at New Era Field was really, really something to watch. It was really cool.
Now, speaking of outdoor games, perfect segue there, Russell. Your New York Rangers took on the Buffalo Sabres at Citi Field, which saw the Buffalo Sabres as the home team, but there were a lot of New York Ranger fans at Citi Field instead for the Winter Classic. For the Rangers and the Buffalo Sabres, it was actually a good game. It wasn't a good start for Buffalo because for 38 seconds in, Zach Bogosian would be called for roughing, and then at 4:09, Paul Carey of the Rangers would score his 5th goal of the season from Jesper. From Jesper Fast and Boo Nieves. And interesting note, Jesper Fast was a last-minute addition to the Rangers lineup for this game. And then at 8:20, Michael Grabner scored his 18th of the season from Kevin Hayes and JT Miller, which is funny because when you're watching the feed or the broadcast of the Winter Classic, Pierre Maguire and Mike Milbury are constantly harping on Michael Grabner, going, "Oh, he scored a goal," albeit most of them have been empty netters this season. So they're kind of taking shots at Grabner. But following that, 13:59, Brendan Smith would be called for tripping. Kevin Hayes would be called for hooking at 17:27, and then Nick Holden would be called for hooking at 19:37. So the Rangers score 2 good goals to get themselves a good, healthy lead to start this game, but then they put themselves in the penalty trouble to end the first period. Taking a look at that first period, what were your thoughts?
Well, I knew after the 2 quick goals, I said to the people I was watching with, I was like, get ready for the Buffalo power play parade. And they were like, how do you know? I was like, this is what they do on like national games or on games. I feel like Buffalo is going to get a lot of power plays now, and the refs are going to try to help them tie it up to increase the drama. And what happens? I think Buffalo got something like 5 straight power plays after the Rangers scored.
No, they didn't. No,
they did not?
No. I'll get to the second period when we finish talking about the first.
Well, yeah, I remember. I was like, I thought their start was fantastic. Like, the Rangers came out on all cylinders, came out firing. Paul Carey, like I said a little before, he's been a story this season because he was pegged for the AHL, wasn't pegged to make the team at all, comes in, and I think he has, 5 goals now, Mike?
Yeah.
On the year?
Paul Carey, as a few people joke, Washington Capitals legend Paul Carey.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't even crack the Capitals lineup.
Yeah, and this guy, like, he wasn't even on many people's radar, and he's really solidified, like, a 4th line role on the team. He's potting, like, goals when he's needed to. He hasn't looked out of place on that 4th line, so kudos to him. I'm glad we found another kind of diamond in the rough guy for that 4th line. And as for Michael Grabner, a lot of people joke about Michael Grabner with the empty net goals, but, he scored a lot of goals not on the empty net this year also. And the fact that he leads the team in goals after having 27 a year ago, and I think they're only paying him $1.5 million, if that even, he's been a bargain signing for the Rangers. And if he somehow gets close to 27, 30 goals again, to pay what they're paying him for 60 goals in 2 years is fantastic. And I hope they bring him back. I hope they don't deal him at the deadline.
All right, and then going into the second period, 56 seconds into the period, Buffalo would get a power play goal from Sam Reinhart, his 6th of the season, from Rasmus Ristolainen and Jack Eichel. And then at 3:39, Zach Bogosian would take his 2nd penalty of the game, this time for holding. And then at 8:44, the New York Rangers bench, served by JT Miller, would be called for too many men on the ice. And at 13:57, Ryan McDonough would be called for tripping for the Rangers. For Buffalo, I thought this was a much better period for the Sabres after having a massively sluggish start in the first. They scored on the first minute on the power play that helped keep their momentum that they were creating at the end of the first period. As for the Rangers, it was a good second period for the Rangers, but they were less aggressive than they were in the first. What was your thoughts on the second period for the Rangers?
Classic letdown period. As a Ranger fan, I've seen it for years now, that they'll come out firing 1 minute, and then the next minute it'll be, oh, we got this, and then they'll allow the other team to play their way back into it. Also, the second period was the start of Robin Lehner really starting to stand on his head for the Buffalo Sabres, and man, he had a really good game. Him and Henrik Lundqvist were really making some good stops, especially with the Winter Classic. It's a beautiful spectacle, but sometimes the ice and sometimes with the shadows and lighting, you don't have the best conditions.
Yeah.
And they both were making really good saves, timely saves, and Robin Lehner that was the beginning of his fantastic game. It was really the second when his game started to pick up. So it was good. It's good to watch.
I love seeing Robin Lehner from emerging from his mask, and I'm kind of flaunting my long hair. You see the ice follicles building up on his hair because of the sweat, and then on the goalie jerseys you can see where the water's hitting their jerseys and it's freezing into a patch of ice on their jerseys. You gotta love that stuff, man. And and I know about the sun and the shadows because I actually got to go to the 2015 Winter Classic game between the Caps and the Blackhawks at Nationals Park in DC, and the game was actually delayed because of the sun. So yeah, I know what it's like actually being at an outdoor game live and seeing that actually have an effect on the game itself. Then going into the third period, 27 seconds in, Rasmus Ristolainen would score his second of the season from Ryan O'Reilly and Kyle Oposo. That would be the only thing that would happen that entire period, which would then lead into overtime, which would see Jacob Josephson of Buffalo take a tripping penalty at 2:15, which then at 2:43 on the power play, JT Miller would score his 8th of the season from Kevin Shattenkirk and Matt Zuccarello. The New York Rangers would win 3-2 in overtime. Shots for 40-33 in favor of the Rangers. Face-offs for 36-29 in favor of Buffalo. Hits for 32-27 in favor of Buffalo. And on the power play, the Rangers were 1 for 3, and the Sabres were 1 for 5. So overall, your Rangers did get the victory. What were your thoughts on the game as a whole?
Okay, well, as a whole, first period, amazing. I wish they played with that kind of intensity every time they came out to start a game, and I wish they played entire games like that. But, there was kind of a lull in the second period. They let the Sabres tie it, I believe, the opening minute of the third, or very close to the opening of the third. But you could tell the intensity ramped back up in the third period. But Robin Lehner, like I said, standing on his head, fantastic game. This game kind of reminded me a little bit of when Grubauer and Pavlik had their duel a few weeks ago, and the goalies were just making ridiculous saves. And then overtime, the big signing comes through from the summer, and Kevin Shattenkirk gets that shot through the point, and he doesn't bury it, but the important thing is he sets JT Miller up, and Miller buries it and sends the away team fans home happy. So I thought it was a fantastic game. Everyone loves the Winter Classic. Even if Chicago gets it a little too much, but that's a story for another time. It was great, and glad the Rangers got the win because, man, Leonard almost stole that game for the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, and I find it funny that it's in New York City, but the Rangers are the away team because if they play any home games outside of Madison Square Garden, they lose a $15 million tax break?
Yep, they lose their tax break, and then they'd have to, they lose their tax exemption, and the Dolans don't want that. So
that's yeah, okay, whatever. I could have seen a better argument. And this is for argument's sake. I could see a better argument if it was Rangers Islanders, with the Islanders being the home team at Citi Field, because the way I've kind of seen it always is that it's like Yankees, Rangers, Knicks, and then Giants, and then Mets, Islanders, Nets, and the Jets. I've always kind of seen it as like that type of way. I mean, obviously there are certain people who flip a few teams depending on the sport and stuff like that, but you kind of always see it like that. And so to have the Islanders as a home team for that would have been a lot better. And then have Yankee Stadium be like that should be like they should work it in there. It's like if the Rangers play as a home team at Yankee Stadium, that works as an exception just because it's Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, because when they did play Yankee Stadium a few years ago, when they played the two Stadium Series games against the Devils and the Islanders, they were the away team for both.
And they dominated still in fan attendance.
The Rangers are undefeated outdoors.
Lundqvist and Shaggy posted this in our Twitch stream, which, by the way, feel free to join in on the conversation here on Twitch. All you have to do is just type a comment and say hi, ask questions. We will definitely answer them. And Shaggy noted that Lundqvist is crazy good outdoors, 4-0 with a 1.98 goals against average.
He loves playing outdoors.
Yes. And then hopping over, let's look at some standings as of today. And the first game for today is actually at 1 p.m., which sees the St. Louis Blues take on the Philadelphia Flyers at 1 o'clock today. In the Metropolitan Division right now, the Capitals are in first place with 53 points. The Devils are in second with 51. Columbus is in third with 49. But then when you look at the wild card picture, you have the Rangers in the first wild card spot with 47 points, which I should note is 5 points behind the Washington Capitals. Then you have Carolina right behind them with 46 points, which is 6 points behind the Washington Capitals. So, there's that little wiggle room where if the Caps lose and they win, these standings will change dramatically. But then when you look at the rest of the wild card race after Carolina, it's Pittsburgh with 45 points, the Islanders with 44, Philly with 42, and the remaining 5 teams are all from the Atlantic Division. It is essentially like the Metro Division is the top 8 teams of the entire freaking division, or the entire conference, with the exception of Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and if you look at it, there will be 5 metropolitan teams making the playoffs. 2 metropolitan teams are going to occupy those last 2 wild card spots. So essentially, if you say Tampa Bay is a lock, and I didn't think Boston would be a lock, but the way Boston's playing right now, I think Boston's going to make it. Toronto is definitely going to make it also. This, honestly, I don't think any Atlantic, with some confidence I can say right now, I don't think any Atlantic team is going to get in besides the 3 right there in the top 3. I don't think any team will somehow jump over a metropolitan team because, look, Detroit has 41, yeah, but I don't think that they're going to jump Philly.
Real quick, I'm going to pull what us Caps fans know as a Craig Laughlin, and we're just going to automatically eliminate the Buffalo Sabres, who have 29 points in the standings.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what a Craig Laughlin is, it's when it's January and Craig Laughlin has already eliminated teams from the playoff picture right off the bat. So
Arizona's not going to make the playoffs either. But...
Yeah, well, Arizona is another mess for another day.
Yeah.
But if you look at Detroit, who is 5 points behind Carolina, and Florida, who's 7 points behind Carolina, and Montreal, who is 8 points behind Carolina, I think those 3 could still potentially have a chance because right now, the Flyers are still way too up and down right now. And the Islanders are still very up and down right now because right now, the Islanders are 20-18-4 with 44 points, and the Flyers are 17-15-8 with 42 points. Pittsburgh is not the same team. I mean, I'm safe saying it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of others are probably thinking it too. But for Pittsburgh, they are, they're going to be, they're probably going through that playoff fatigue. 2 deep runs back to back, winning the cup, all those injuries. One can say that they're probably feeling that fatigue. And I think this could be a year that Pittsburgh misses the playoffs if they keep playing the way they are right now.
Yeah. And, look, Pittsburgh, they've played a lot of hockey over the past few years. They've back-to-back cups, so they've played more than any other team. But the whole thing with Pittsburgh is that defense has taken a hit. Crystal Tang recently just got back from injury. They're kind of trying to fill holes with different people. They just traded for Jamie Alexiak from the Dallas Stars a few weeks ago. And if you look at that defense, it's kind of rough. Beyond the Tang, I know Justin Schultz is still hurt, or I'm pretty sure. And there's just teams that are playing better than them. And a lot of people picked the Carolina Hurricanes in preseason to be a dark horse to make the playoffs this year. And, they've been playing real well. The Islanders have fallen off a bit. Philly just, I don't know what kind of team they are. They lose 10 and then they win 6. Like, it doesn't really make sense. But
yeah, and that's one of the weird things about it right now. It's like with the Metro, it's like the Metro is so tight together,
yeah,
but there's so much disparity at the same time. But yet, it's the best division in the entire league.
Yeah, there's no division that... people always go back and forth and say, what is the best division between the Central and the Metro? And there's definitely arguments for both. But the Metro's been... I mean, when you look at it, from 46 points to 53 points, look, that's not a big gap separating first from fifth. The Metro is going to be in flux until probably the last week of the season. We're not going to know who's going to have home ice or what the top 3 seeds are until April.
Yeah. Now, what time? 10:26. Now, with that, we're gonna bring on our next guest in a second. But real quick, ladies and gentlemen, looking for sci-fi fun, then come to the Hunt Valley Inn in Hunt Valley, Maryland, for Farpoint from February 9th to 11th, 2018. Come see special guests like Matt Frewer, Timothy Zahn, Nana Visitor, and many more. For more information and to purchase tickets, visit farpointcon.com today. And Russell, I believe it was with you. I mentioned Matt Frewer. You can't go wrong with big Russ Thompson from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and the guy who voiced Sid the Squid from Batman the Animated Series. That's who I'm most excited to meet at that convention. And with that, we're going to bring on our next guest, which is Sophia Agostinelli. Please tell me I said that correctly.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
All right. I was practicing. I was reading it on paper going like, please let me say this correctly.
Good job, Mike.
I feel special. But from the Connecticut Whale, who recently defeated the South Korean national team in a exhibition game. But before we get to that, Sophia, why don't you tell the people who you are and how you got into hockey and what led you to get to the National Women's Hockey League?
All right. Well, my story is kind of a little bit different than everyone else's because I went to Holy Cross and I actually played lacrosse there, but I didn't play any college hockey like most people would before playing a professional league. But I always loved hockey growing up. I played club hockey for the Flames in Massachusetts, and even though I wasn't able to play in college because I was afraid to lose my scholarship if I did, I still played summer league, and upon graduating from Holy Cross, I went abroad to Germany and played professional hockey there. And from there, I saw that I still had it, I still was able to play, and when I came back, I played in the summer league with some of my current teammates, and they said, hey, why don't you try out for the Whales? We would love to have you. And now I'm playing professionally here.
Awesome. Now, as I mentioned, you played against Team South Korea or their national team recently. What was it like going from playing in scheduled NWHL games to being able to play in an exhibition game like this against an actual Olympic team?
I thought it was a really fun game. I think there was something kind of magical about it because there was a snowstorm happening, and we weren't sure if everyone was going to make it to the game. I think everyone showed up about 30 minutes before the game, and there was less pressure in knowing that it was just a scrimmage, and because of that, I think that we were able to be more creative and score more goals, which has been a problem for us all year.
And now for your team, going to standings real quick. Your team currently sits in last place at 2-5-0 with 4 points. However, you do play tomorrow, and if Buffalo were to lose today, and which is this is kind of a tough scenario for you guys right now because you have Buffalo and Boston playing each other today, and you're playing the undefeated Metropolitan Riveters tomorrow. But say Buffalo loses and you ladies win tomorrow, you can actually, in a way, better position yourselves in the standings. What's the mindset going in for the remainder of this season, knowing that 2 through 4 is a very close battle for everybody?
I think the mindset for us right now is to just always be improving every game, and the mistakes we made last game, we shouldn't be bringing them into our next game. Obviously, the Riveters are clearly a powerhouse. They're very good, and if we could score against them, that would be great. If we could keep them from scoring, that would be great. Probably not likely, but for the NWHL, it's all about the postseason. Doesn't really matter that much about standings. As long as you can keep improving, that's all that we can hope for.
Now, an interesting thing, you mentioned that it's more about the postseason than the regular season. Say Buffalo loses, and then you get a win tomorrow, and then you play Buffalo on Sunday, January 14th. You beat them. You actually do hopscotch them in the standings. So, I guess you play a matchup game. I guess it's like saying, man, maybe I want to face this team in the playoffs in the first round rather than this team. So
I think, yeah, like from that, you just want to make sure that you keep on moving forward. It doesn't really, I don't really care what happens to the other teams. I just want our team to keep improving. And I think that what has happened the past 2 years is that you expect one team to win, and it's not always the case that's going to be like that.
right. Hey, Russell, you're welcome to jump in and ask Sophia questions if you have them.
Awesome, yeah. Just wanted to say congrats for beating the, what'd you say, the Korean team, Mike?
South Korean, yes.
South Korean team, so congratulations on that. And I actually spoke to someone else from the NWHL a few months ago on my podcast. I talked to Rebecca Russo from the Metropolitan Riveters.
Oh, yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah.
He actually played for the Connecticut World, I think.
I believe in the first season. I gotta. So, but yeah, Russell, if you got any questions for Sophia, please feel free to ask him. Because I may be the host, but I don't have to ask every question.
Well, yeah, I wasn't sure if you wanted to just ask the questions, Mark, or not. But yeah, sure. I think I can get some.
Oh, good job. But Sophia, I asked this question to Anya when we had her on back in September, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it. But what's it like being on a team that has no NHL franchise in the area, and what is it like having that type of fan base that you have?
Okay, so obviously we have the biggest struggle being the Connecticut team. We're kind of I don't know, like, it's just, out of all the 4 teams, we're like the least lucky team in location in terms of fans, because we've been moving around a lot. Every year we have a new rink, so that kind of changes with the fan base. And we don't have any professional teams nearby that we can like latch onto, but there are some AHL teams. We have the Hartman, Foussekis, and we also have the Blueshirts down, so we try to do stuff with them, and maybe we could form an alliance through them to an NHL team. That's the goal.
All right, and of course, obviously, as we've seen this season, the Metropolitan Riveters doing the partnership with the New Jersey Devils, which is a 3-year deal, and then just recently the Pagula family purchasing the Buffalo Buttes. In your opinion, what type of impact does that make for the National Women's Hockey League, besides the obvious answer of positive?
Yeah, it's huge, right? We want to be seen, we want to be known. So every time I'm going out in the city, I'm talking to people, I'm trying to get them to know, and the NWHL, there's hardly anyone who knows about it who's outside of hockey. So we pair up with the NHL, we'll get our name out there, more people will come to the games, there'll be more support, there'll be more money coming in, and we'll be able to grow that way.
All right. Russell, you got any questions?
Actually, yeah, I do.
Good.
So you mentioned that the Connecticut Whale don't have a permanent home. Do you know if any moves were made to try to play in the XL Center where the Hartford Wolfpack play?
I'm actually not sure about that. I don't know who picks out the rink. I think we've been moving to try to find where we can get the most fans and, what makes sense, like, monetarily wise.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if we have looked into that. But it is a really cool rink. I would love to play there. In fact, some of the NWHL players are going to a Hartford Wolfpack game to kind of spread our name and go on the ice. They're going to do something with us on the ice. I'm not sure yet.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, I've been to a few Hartford games. I've been up there a few times just to check it out. And I mean, the rink, I know they're undergoing a renovation there too. I believe that they're improving the arena also. So I feel like if you guys could get in there, now would be as good a time as any too. And it could probably be a good permanent home.
Yeah, that's the ideal.
And real quick, our friend Dixon, who's the engineer of the show, says, "Welcome, Sophia, to the show." And our buddy Shaggy, who's also live tweeting this show, says fanboy levels rising, because he's a huge Connecticut Whale fan. And he just sent in a question for you. Ask Sophia, what is your favorite pregame meal and who is the biggest joker in the locker room?
Alright, let me think about that. I
Y-
usually, well, I live with another whale machine. We always go to Dunkin's before. So I get a little bit nervous before games, so I usually have coffee and nothing else. So it depends how early the game is, obviously. If it's an early game, like the Korea game, like just like coffee. But usually, probably like an omelet or something. I think it's just the standard fare. What was the other question?
the who is the biggest joker in the locker room?
Um, it varies. So we have some people that are always dancing and doing funny stuff. Like Kelly Babcock and Elena Orlando are always dancing. And I think Anya, who's coming on later, is pretty funny too. She sits next to me in the locker room and I hear everything she says. And some of the stuff is just hilarious. But I like to run pranks on people. So like we had a Star Wars themed game, so I brought my Star Wars stuff and danced around there too.
All right. And I'm doing stuff. It's great being a two man team essentially with the show. Dixon is monitoring to make sure people can hear us, and then I'm sharing all the other stuff. And our hour two guest just texted me, which is actually Anya. So sorry, Russell, you don't get to interview Anya this time around, but I'll make sure you get it next time.
Yeah, hopefully next time will be cool.
But so Sophia, obviously being in Connecticut, no NHL team, but you do have AHL teams. Who is actually your favorite NHL team?
So I actually grew up around Boston, so I'm a Boston team. I like all the Boston teams. I have been following the Bruins, but not much this year because they've been so busy.
All right. Well, right now you should be happy they are second in the division, or tied for
Yeah,
second in the division, with 50 points with Toronto. Um, for Boston, sorry, Suds. For Boston, they're having a lot of youth in that lineup. Obviously, first full year under Bruce Cassidy, them being in second place with what a lot of people thought would not be a playoff year for Boston. How does that make you feel seeing them in the position they are right now?
I am so excited because the time that I'll be tuning in will be the postseason, which is when I'll have more time to watch TV. So, and I was there for the Bruins when they, won it all, and I was able to go to the parade, and that was great. Loved it. So I'd love to do that again. So hopefully we can go all the way.
Now, Zdeno Chara and Russell, you can chime in on this question too. We're just going to start doing some NHL talk and just random hockey talk. But what are your for Zdeno Chara? I believe he's in the last year of his contract, or he has a year left on his contract. Given his age, while he brings great leadership to the locker room, do you think it's maybe time for Boston to maybe move on from Zdeno Chara, or maybe sign him to another one-year deal to maybe help with the development of Charlie McAvoy and others?
Well, my thoughts on this is that, if you're saying that most of the team is kind of young, it might be good to keep somebody who has been with the team for a long time and is older and more mature. But on the flip side, I know that he's been struggling, or he has been when I last tuned in. Has it changed since?
He's doing all right. He isn't the fastest guy on the ice.
I don't think he's ever been.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, I think Chara still. Obviously, he's not going to dominate the game with his feet, but I feel that someone that's been in that organization for as long as he has and who's been so crucial to that team's success. He's also their captain. I feel maybe give him another one-year deal, like you said, Mike. Let him stick around because him and McAvoy have been pretty good together, and I think Chara's probably got maybe another good year in him. And he's not the type of player I would trade from Boston because of the kind of like the love they have for him so much and like what he means to that city and what he's done for them in his time there. So, I mean, I would be all for him playing for that city for another year. I can't see him playing anywhere else to finish out his career.
Right. And then Shaggy has another question for you, Sophia. He says, obviously playing professional hockey is huge on anyone's bucket list. Are there any other big bucket list things you want to do?
That's a good question.
And then while you're thinking about that, Shaggy just posted, I think Chart is going to receive the Nick Lidstrom treatment in Boston. So.
Right. I think on my bucket list, I definitely want to do more traveling. I kind of caught the travel bug when I lived in Germany for a year, and I just realized there's just so much more in the world that like everyone needs to see. It's not obviously really hard to do, but to be able to travel to other places I haven't been to would be great, and especially if it was with a team. So if I could do that with a hockey team, if we could go, if somehow the NWHL could make another trip outside the U.S., that'd be amazing. On the other side of that, I also still coach lacrosse, and I've been having some European teams fly me out there to coach. So I would love for more opportunities like that.
It's very cool. I know that the first season, the NWHL did do send the Riveters to Japan to play their Japanese national team in a series of games because at the time the Riveters had Nana Fujimoto on the team. But that would actually be really cool to see them do that again because they were really no NWHL teams have actually traveled out of the little market area that you're in since that first season because there's also when the Boston Pride took on I believe Minnesota school. I think it was University of Minnesota. So that would actually be good to see the NWHL do that again.
Yeah, it would be really cool. And Canada's not so far away. That's not a crazy trip to make. And we are doing the All-Star game in Florida, so it's kind of out of our market. It's good that we're spreading out in America too, because we're thinking, obviously the goal is to expand and add more teams to the division.
Sophia, where do you think the next, consider if expansion is on the table for the NWHL, what cities would you like to see come into the fold next? What other cities do you think a NWHL team would work really well in?
DC.
Yes, I've heard a lot of people, say DC, places like I could see, like Minnesota, the really big hockey areas like Wisconsin. I guess like that area, and then something out west coast. I'm not sure exactly where, but it'd be great to expand it all the way from coast to coast.
I know this because I sat in a press conference call with the league twice now, and the first one was about the Riveters and the Devils, and it was made known to us in the press in that call that DC's on a short list, Pittsburgh's on a short list, and they didn't name a couple others because they obviously loved when they did the All-Star game in Pittsburgh last year. Obviously, there's going to be an actual regular season game in Pittsburgh this season. Yeah, which is coming. I think it's at the end of this month. They were talking about and obviously DC during Thanksgiving weekend had the D1 women's college hockey tournament recently. So and we're also still waiting to hear about where the All-Star game is going to be, and if it's in an NHL market area, obviously then that could potentially make that place a potential expansion place as well. So
the All-Star team for the NHL?
No, the All-Star game for the women's for the NWHL because it's going to be out of market from what we've been told, but the location of the All-Star game has not been announced yet.
Oh, it hasn't been?
No, not that we know of, because Dan Rice, who's been on this show a couple of times, he even did a tweet I think the other day saying it'd be nice if the National Women's Hockey League would announce where the All-Star game would be.
Yeah, it's funny because being friends with Anya, you kind of hear a lot of things, a lot of rumors, so I'm not going to start any rumors then. Anya.
Ask Anya in the next hour. Gotcha.
Anya does everything. She really does.
Well, when you're also the director of the Players Association, things like that is a little bit more privy. So, and Shaggy asked NWHL versus CWHL exhibition games. That, from what I've heard, that is a no-go because the CWHL has no interest. So.
Yeah, that's sad because it'd be great for us to join together on a common cause, which is, women's hockey.
Go ahead.
Say first. You say first.
Well, I was just going to say, I think with what happened with the Winter Classic and the Les Canadians versus the Boston Pride, when that game happened, I think, especially when Dana Lang got hurt, I think there might have been some sour grapes afterwards. But I don't know. That's just speculation because after that, CWHL would not recognize NWHL after that.
Yeah.
So. But that's just something that I've noticed on looking from the outside. So.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way, that we are two separate entities that will never, mix, but eventually at some point in the future, I think we have to. If we're going to be following the NHL route, it's got to be the way that we have a North American league.
Shaggy just messaged in our Twitch chat, CWHL equal the Vince McMahon of denying things. Obviously, you got to be a wrestling fan to understand that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great if both leagues could somehow come together and you could get the Canadians involved. Also, I think it's a shame that they kind of don't want to be involved because it would just be beneficial all around. I don't feel like there's any downside to that.
Yeah, and I remember reading, I think it was Elliot Friedman's 31 Thoughts, which is one of the greatest reads in the entire National Hockey League. And I believe it was when the Riveters Devils partnership happened, or when the Pagulas bought the Buttes. He was talking about that, and he said that... No, it was actually when the Devils and the Riveters deal came out. He said that the deal for both is huge, because it allows the Devils to help grow the women's game, but it also helps the NWHL grow the league as well. But at the same time, it has been kind of murmured behind the scenes in the NHL that that the NHL would love to see both leagues combined because they don't want to just start, promoting one league and, kind of show favoritism towards one league compared to the other. So it's kind of one of those, you guys see what happens in the future. Obviously, big things are happening right now for the NWHL, which is huge. But you got to see, how the CWHL reacts to that as well.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that, it's definitely something that's going on with the higher-ups. I think a lot of players would love to extend a league, even if that means, combining leagues. So, you can't punish the player kind of for the higher-ups. So I think it's great that they're starting to pick up teams, and, what about the Canadian NHL teams? Why can't they just pick up the CWHL, then it's, even, and then one day we can combine?
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah, no, and yeah, no, and no, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you gotta create some type of conversation to provoke thought, and which is what we're having now. We're provoking thought through conversation. Ain't that right, Russell?
Yes, entirely right.
Just for the record, Russell just agrees with me on everything that I say. So I could just say the Rangers suck, and I'll be like, ain't that right, Russell?
Hey, whoa. We don't get into that here. I don't make fun of your caps. I get my snide comments here or there. But,
like with Tom Wilson?
You and Tom Wilson. I hope you get to meet Tom Wilson one day so you can confess your undying love for him.
I have met Tom Wilson.
Well, did you tell him how you feel about him, Mike?
No, well, when I met him, it was his rookie year, so it's been a while since I've met him.
He couldn't say it, and he was fangirling.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, speaking of fangirling, I wonder how Shaggy is totally fangirling over the fact that you're on. So,
Yeah.
And he's live tweeting, so you're probably seeing him tweet about it right now.
Yes, exactly. So I'm on stage with my phone, so it's just fluttering across my screen.
Yeah, I'm looking at my phone. Like, I have the commissioner of the hockey league that I play in calling me. I have another phone call, which I'm just doing to ignore. I don't know why all these people are calling me. It's like, I'm on the air, people. Welcome to Txht, where our Twitch debut is filled with me getting text messages and phone calls from people that should not be calling or texting me right now. This is why I cry in my sleep at night. But
oh no.
And we have a disagreement on our Twitch chat, which is Shaggy's saying, I am in total agreement with you, Russell, and Tom Wilson. And then Dixon, our engineer, is going, Tom Wilson is so a top 6 player, which Shaggy goes with lies.
I'm with Shaggy. Hashtag I'm with Shaggy.
Don't give him any more hashtags. He already has enough hashtags he has to tweet. So. Yeah, Dixon's right. Yeah, I'm famous today. Probably for all the wrong reasons. But, so real quick, we're getting ready to wrap up hour 1. Sophia, where can the people follow you on the social media and hype up tomorrow's game against the Metropolitan Riveters?
So I definitely want to reach out to all my fans and tell them to come. My Twitter handle is Sophia with an S _ Angelina. You can follow me on there, and then also that's the same thing for my Snapchat. If you want to see some crazy shenanigans that we do in the locker room, that will be posted on there. And my Instagram is Soph Angelina, so it's SOPHANGELINA. You can follow me on Instagram.
And then for tomorrow's game?
Tomorrow's game should be a good one. It's going to be at the New Jersey rink.
Yep.
For the Riveters.
3 p.m. start time.
Yeah,
And I believe that is actually the Twitter game of the week, if I remember right.
Yes, it is.
Yep. So, haha, I did good. All right, Russell, your turn.
My turn?
Yeah, your turn with your 17 Twitter handles that you got to promote.
So you can follow me at Russell Hartman 1. You can follow the Tilted Ice series of podcasts at the Tilted Ice. You can follow our Forever Blue Shirt. I always mess up if there's a 4 in the name, so I actually have to check this out with the Blueshirts handle, because I always mess the Blueshirts.
Did you do this last week too? Where you're I think I messed this up.
I always forget the Blue Shirt. Oh, here we go. You can follow Forever Blue Shirts at the number 4, and then Ever Blue Shirts. That's EVERBLUESHIRTS. And you can follow also my co-host, Michael Kaplan, who's also very good with his banter at Official Cappy. So, thank you. Mike, thank you for having me on again.
Yes, definitely. And we'll have Cappy on in the near future. Like you guys will have me on in the near future, which you've been saying for months. But Sophia, Russell, thank you so much for coming on for hour 1 of TXHT's special debut here on Twitch. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to play some music so you guys can have something to listen to. I'm going to get the next 2 guests ready. So Russell and Sophia, thank you again for coming on.
You're very welcome, Mike.
Anya, I said hi.
All right, I'll tell Anya you said hi, even though you're probably going to see her later today for practice or tomorrow anyway. So, all right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're going to go to a quick break. Like I said, I'm going to play some music while you're going to watch me feverishly get things together, but I'm going to play some music for you guys just to have a little fun. Hey, just mute yourself for a sec. Mute mics real quick. So people are still seeing me real quick. Mute your mics real quick, both of you, and then I'll introduce you into the shows.
Okay, great.
You look magnificent, George, by the way. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to hour 2 of the Txht Twitch debut special. I want to do a special thanks to both Russell Hartman from Tilted Ice and Forever Blueshirts and Sophia Agostinelli from the Connecticut Whale. A little bit later on, we'll be joined by Anya Battaligno, who is teammates with Sophia and is also the NWHL PA director. And joining me now, right off the bat, from Nova Caps, our returning champion, who's wearing his LA Rams 2017 West Champions, or AFC West? NFC West champion. See, I don't watch the NFL, so I don't know this stuff. Championship shirt, which nobody can see, by the way. Welcome back, George. How you been, bud?
Hey, Michael. Happy New Year. It's great to be back.
So, how are things over at Nova Caps for you guys? Especially with the big announcement of the Caps alumni game.
Yes, it's doing very well. I'm looking really forward to that. I hope it's against the Maple Leafs, I got to tell you, because I'd love to see Ty Domi actually skate in person for once, because he's one of my favorite Maple Leafs of all time. So I hope they announce it as it's the Caps versus the Maple Leafs, because I would love to actually see some of the Maple Leaf players play for the first time.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things is that it's actually going to be played the day after the Stadium Series game, which normally an alumni game is done the day before. What are your thoughts on them kind of switching it up a little bit like that?
I don't really see any issue with it. I mean, it's going to be a fun weekend up in Annapolis, and both fan bases are going to be represented very well. So I'm sure everyone's probably going to make a long weekend out of it. It's going to be a great game for the fans. Great game for hockey. The outdoor games are something special, and when you can make a weekend out of it, it's truly one of the best events you can go to.
Yeah, and obviously the last time the Caps hosted a outdoor game was the Winter Classic at Nationals Park against Chicago. And in the first hour when we were talking to Russell, we were talking about the Winter Classic between the Rangers and the Sabres. What was your thoughts on that Winter Classic game?
Well, that game was, it is what it is when you have two New York teams playing each other, and obviously, the ratings this year I hear took a dip this year, and it wasn't one of the highest ranked or most watched games this year. But anytime you get New York fans involved, they can always pack the stadium, and that's what they did, and both teams have a strong fan base, and it was definitely, watching the game from New York is definitely a spectacle in itself too, and those two teams definitely gave the fans something to remember. That it was a pretty competitive game.
All right, and then hopping right into it, before the end of the year, we had the Capitals host the New Jersey Devils at home. In this game, featured Tom Wilson, in sorts being demoted to the third line from the first line and scoring in the first 3 minutes of the game, going, all right, you're going to put me on the third line? Fine, I'm going to score another goal. Which was assisted by Christian Hughes and John Carlson. Then Christian Hughes would score later in the period, and then John Moore scored the goal for the Devils to cut the lead in half. Just kind of hopping a little bit, the Capitals would go on to win this game 5-2. What was your overall thoughts on that Capitals game against New Jersey to end the year before they went on to take on the Hurricanes in the new year?
Well, I feel that the Capitals, finally, they decided to take a game seriously from the start, and that's the key to the game. I mean, they got the start that they needed in this game, and of course, Tom Wilson got them going right off the bat. About 2.5 minutes in, and that momentum just kind of carried them the rest of the way, and obviously, it helps too when you get contributions from your young guys, and Christian Hughes was a major player in this game too. I mean, he set up Wilson's first goal, and then he ended up getting a goal like right after that. So, the Caps pounced on New Jersey. I mean, this is what they need to do. I mean, they pounced on New Jersey early, and they just kind of rode the momentum the rest of the way, and they got contributions from their young players and even their their major players like Alex Ovechkin and Nicholas Backstrom. They all had great games. So that's the difference in the game, as the Cap stars showed up and they performed really well.
Now, going into the game against Carolina, you kind of felt a little bit of a, sort of in the beginning, you felt kind of a, like a New Year's hangover, I guess you can say. Victor Rask scoring the first goal, but then Alex Chiasson responding right away, which was great. Devontae Smith-Pelly scoring his 6th of the season, assisted by Jay Beagle and Brooks Orpik. Then going into the second period, Orlov would score, but then it would be a Kuznetsov penalty, which would give Victor Rask his 2nd of the game. I don't know, it just felt like in this game, for the Capitals, it felt a little bit more stagnant. But luckily for them, Alex Ovechkin on a 1:30 long overtime shift we get the game-winning goal in overtime to help propel the Capitals into sole possession of first place. What were your thoughts on this game for the Capitals?
Yeah, when you're talking about stagnant, it just seemed like the Capitals never really got going in the game, and some slow starts to periods, for whatever reason, led to this. I mean, the first Carolina goal of the game was all set up by a very poor John Carlson turnover in the defensive zone, and just it basically gave Carolina a layup in front of the net. The turnovers in this game were not very good and were very costly for the Capitals in this game. But fortunately, they got some contributions from the fourth line, and Devontae Smith-Pelly was really good in this game, and they also got a goal from their defense, and that's something from Dmitry Orlov, and that's something that they have been lacking this year is goals from their defense. So the Capitals in this, and then of course in the third period, Alex Ovechkin took over, and they carried into overtime, and he does what he does best, and that's score overtime goals. So the Caps just never really got going and were badly outshot in this game, but even when they played poorly, they were still able to hang around in this game, fortunately for them. But this game was definitely a lot closer than they probably wanted it to be.
Yeah, and Carolina currently holds the last wild card spot in the Eastern Conference, and they have that spot because of their fight and their competitive level on that team. Former Capital Justin Williams is back in Carolina. What type of impact do you think he has made for the Hurricanes this season?
Oh, Justin Williams is all pro and very classy guy, and obviously with the Hurricanes they still have a fairly younger team, so Justin Williams comes in, brings the veteran experience that they need, brings the winning pedigree. Obviously, he's a former Conn Smythe winner and Stanley Cup champion, so Justin Williams brings an immediate impact just by his presence and just by, the same things that he brought for the Capitals. He's a very versatile guy, too. In the same breath, he contributes those clutch goals that he's well known for. So Justin Williams is one of those guys that any team, doesn't matter who it is in the standings, would love to have. Right.
And, and then one thing I want to throw out there, and I think it's one of the reasons why the Cavs probably looked a little stagnant in this game against Carolina on Tuesday, is the fact that when was the last when have they played since then?
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's right. That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
They have this Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, they have like 4 days off, and then they play all of next week, and then I think after they play on Friday next week, they go on another extended break. Because I think that's their actual bye week.
And that definitely makes a difference for a team too, especially, obviously the breaks can actually, sometimes I feel they can hurt a team more than they can help a team. I mean, especially if a team is on a roll and then they hit their break, that can kind of disturb the flow of how things are going on right now. So sometimes I feel that the breaks are not necessarily the best thing for a team. Now, on the flip side of it, if the team goes into a break and they have multiple injuries at the time, then that definitely can benefit a team going into the break. If they've got a whole slew of injuries and they need guys to recover and rest, that definitely can help them out. But it just depends on what's going on in the season, and I definitely think the break is, the Caps need to be aware and they need to stay strong on their play during these long days where they don't have any games being played.
Yeah, and in a way, this 4-day break, even though the team has been practicing during a bye week, there is no practicing at all. It is straight up nothing. It has been known that Matt Niskanen missed the game against Carolina due to an upper body injury, so obviously having 4 days off helps the Capitals in regards to getting Matt Niskanen back healthy because he gets to take that time off. But honestly, it's like one of the good changes that they made to the bye week is that when you come back from your bye week, you play a team that's also coming back from their bye week, not a team that's been playing like 5 straight weeks in a row and is really in their groove, and then you're trying to come back and get back into your groove. So that's one good change to the bye week. Personally, I don't like the bye week, but that's just because I want to keep watching hockey all week long and not be bored after Tuesday. So, but what are your thoughts on those little changes that they did?
Yeah, obviously, they condensed the bye weeks down, and I definitely think it's a better setup now. But I'm with you. I'm just a traditionalist. They didn't have bye weeks, way back when, and it's never been a part of hockey. And I just assume the season just go on and just be played the way it is. And I mean, I feel that the season might be a little bit even too long right now, the regular season. So I'm even actually for pushing, the start of the regular season back to maybe mid-September instead of, October, late or early October to what it is right now. So I feel that the bye weeks could be eliminated, but, it is what it is. I guess it's now part of the CBA, so.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the days when the NHL season would start on October 1st, which is my birthday, by the way. And the season would end like the last week of March. And, and I like that a lot better because the Stanley Cup would be awarded in May.
Right.
And now it's like mid to late June sometimes now with the Cup. And it's like, come on. That's we were talking about it in the first hour. Not sure if you're watching, but when we had Russell on, we were talking about the Penguins who are on the bubble of the wild card spot. I think they're like a point or something behind the Hurricanes. Mm-hmm. And this is a team that probably will miss the playoffs just because of playoff fatigue. Because look at how deep they've had to go. The last two seasons and the seasons before that when they did go to the playoffs. 2 seasons ago, full season plus a full playoff run winning the Cup. Then the next season, you had a World Cup of Hockey plus a full season and a full playoffs winning the top Cup again. So, they're like 2 games above 500, but, you could tell that this is a team that's having problems this season because of that fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, the Penguins have definitely played a lot of hockey over the last couple of years, and after a long playoff run, back-to-back playoff runs, it would not surprise me if they walked into this season literally walking wounded, just because they played so much hockey the last couple of years, and it happens to teams. I mean, it happened to Tampa Bay last year. They had made it to the conference finals, and they had in the Stanley Cup Finals, and they had a couple long playoff runs, and they missed out. They didn't look the same. Now, this year, they're back to where they were a couple years ago, and they're back to form, and everything's looking good for them right now.
Yeah, especially with the additions of like Mikhail Sergachev, Nikita Kucherov is coming into his own now, especially having a healthy Steven Stamkos, like back-to-back years with like broken legs and blood clots and stuff like that. It's just, you're seeing Steven Stamkos at his full potential. And then real quick, Dixon notes that the Capitals' bye week is January 13th through 17th, which is like a couple weeks before the All-Star break. Yeah. So it's like, hey, here's a 4-day break, here's another break, and then here's the All-Star break. Yeah, wonderful. Let's just take them off of January off instead. How's that sound? And then Shaggy goes, I don't want this to happen, but watch them defy logic and three-peat in regards to the Penguins. And Pittsburgh is known for defying logic. Because there is no logic in hockey anymore.
If they get in, it does not matter what seed they are.
Yep. They have that experience. They have that know-it-all to get it done.
Yep.
Now, speaking of that, the Capitals had played straight up 41 games. You have Tom Wilson on pace for 12 goals. Same with Devontae Smith-Pelly and Alex Chiasson on pace for 14. If they keep scoring at the rate they are. Alex Ovechkin, obviously, at the beginning of the season was on rate to score like 600 goals. Because starting off with 2 straight hat tricks. Now, I mentioned those 3 players personally. Chiasson and Smith-Pelly were brought in during the offseason. Tom Wilson, obviously, getting more opportunity now to getting the opportunity to be the player that he was when he was drafted. What are your thoughts on those 3 guys and how they're developing their games with the Washington Capitals?
Well, I think it's important most for Tom Wilson that they put him in these positions to succeed. And I've even said this last year. Tom Wilson's got this presence about him, but he's also still developing his game, and he's still at a young age to where he can still get to where he needs to be offensively. And Barry Trotz is obviously over the last couple seasons has given him more responsibility, especially like on the penalty kill and stuff like that. So Tom Wilson definitely has a bright future still, and he still hasn't really. I don't feel he's necessarily scratched the surface of where he can peak yet. So if he continues to get more ice time with more skilled players like Kuznetsov or like Backstrom, that's going to help his development. I don't see where in under any circumstance where that can hurt Tom Wilson's development playing with more skilled players. If anything, I think it'll make it better, and it'll improve his offensive game.
Right.
In regards to Chason, obviously, he was brought in and has made the most of it. I mean, he's scored I think 7 goals so far this year, and he's bounced around a little bit, but he's proven that he can play, and he can be a serviceable fourth line guy for the Caps. And when you're getting contributions from your fourth line guys, that really helps the balance of your offensive attack. And the same goes for Smith-Pelly. Smith-Pelly's the same way. He can provide a spark. He can provide a key goal like he did the other night against Carolina to get the momentum back to get the Caps' momentum back in their favor. So, these guys are very important to the success of the team. Even, fourth line guys that can contribute key goals at key times. These guys are needed and necessary, especially if the Capitals want to make another run into the postseason.
Right. And then, we'll talk about Devontae Smith-Pelly and his development, but one point I want to bring up, and this would be a good thing for Devontae Smith-Pelly to talk about, is that also tells you something about Barry Trotz as a coach. He's able to give guys defined roles on the team. Alex Chason, third line guy. Here's your defined role. That's what he's doing this season. He has 7 goals. Last season, the Capitals brought in Lars Eller from Montreal. You're going to be the third line center. This is your defined role. Lars Eller has been thriving under that role. Tom Wilson, obviously, he's still in the developmental phase of his career where he's trying to grow his game even more, which I would actually like to see him on the power play, especially in front of the net, because you have this big guy who creates chaos. Put him in front of the net on a power play. That's going to create some freaking chaos and get you some goals. Talk about sparking your power play. And then you have, Devontae Smith-Pelly, who is third line, fourth line. Right now he's on the first line of Alex Ovechkin and Nicholas Backstrom. This is a guy whose role is that you're to be a spark plug. And he has performed that role as a spark plug very well, no matter what line he's played on that Barry has asked him to do. What are your thoughts on DSP?
DSP, he brings the energy every night, and that's sometimes when you have those stagnant moments, like in the Carolina game, that's the type of player that you need. I mean, you need somebody to create a spark. You need somebody to, get the flatness out of the game, if you will. But Devontae Smith-Pelly is doing what he's asked to do, and that's what the Capitals need some nights, especially if they come out just lethargic and flat. They need a guy that can spark them and maybe score a key goal to get the bench fired up, to make a big hit. They need a guy like Smith-Pelly in their lineup to, just give them some momentum and give them something different on the ice every night.
All right, and then final point that I want to bring, but first I'll talk what Shaggy brings up. Shaggy says, I honestly said if Chason gets 15 goals like Connolly did last year, it would be a successful signing. I like Connolly on the power play. In the Oshie spot, Connolly does have first-round talent. Well, yes, Brett Connolly and Tom Wilson are both first-round picks, so obviously they both have first-round talent in them. You can't really go wrong with either or. But recently, the one thing that I want to talk real quick before we bring on our next guest is the Capitals were able to regain Nathan Walker through waivers. I don't even know if he even played a game for Edmonton. But he's back with the Caps, and he's now down in Hershey. What are your thoughts on the Nathan Walker journey right now?
Well, the Caps, for whatever reason, I don't feel that they were able to slot him in the lineup to where they, thought he could best be positioned at. I obviously, he's taken the long route to the NHL, and sometimes things just don't go the way you want them to. but that's not necessarily knocking on him. It's just the Caps are so deep, at different positions right now, so it's kind of hard for a guy like him to crack the lineup every night. But Nathan Walker was a top producer in Hershey. The fans love him there. He's a guy that you still love to have on your team, no matter what level of hockey. It just might take him a little bit of time, but at the end, it still might all pay off for him. So I think Nathan Walker's still on this weird, windy road of journeying around, but I think it still could pay off for him in the long run.
Right. All right, and Dixon, he says, I think he ended up playing a few games with the Oilers. Dixon, your job is to now find out if he did. So get to work, boy. You can do the thing. We all believe in you. And per Shaggy, Isabel Khurshudyan from the Washington Post is reporting that Burakovsky with Chason and Beagle for practice and getting some second power play unit time. And per Shaggy, Walker played 2 games with the Edmonton Oilers. So there you go. And Dixon said, there, yeah, Shaggy. I think he meant to say thank you. I don't know. It's Dixon that we are talking about here. So, but real quick, what are your thoughts about the second half of the season with all these breaks? What do you think is the key thing that the Capitals have to do to be successful and get into have a good spot in the playoffs?
Well, obviously the first thing, especially for any team like the Capitals, is staying healthy. So, with this break now, obviously, the Caps possibly have a few guys that are dinged up, like, Matt Niskanen and TJ Oshie. Obviously, these breaks now are critical for them to maybe heal up a little bit, rest up, just, take care of their bodies just to make sure, they don't have any major injuries or anything. That's the main thing during these breaks that the players need to do, is just to maintain their bodies and rest up, but don't get too complacent now. You still have to play hockey, but you have to just manage everything a little bit better when you're not playing a game. It's different.
Yeah, I don't think complacency is going to be something that the Caps are going to be allowed to get away with how tight the Metro Division is.
Right.
So, if they slip up, like, say they slip up for 5 games, that could be out of the playoffs completely.
Right.
So that's just how tight it is. So with that, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, Washington, D.C.'s Comic-Con is back. AwesomeCon is returning to the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C. from March 30th to April 1st, 2018. Come see the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy, including D.C.'s own Dave Bautista, including many more special guests. For more information and to purchase tickets, visit awesome-con.com today. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now bring on to the show from the Connecticut Whale, and she is also the director of the National Women's Hockey League's Players Association, Anya Battaligno. Anya, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate the time.
Not a problem. And then, George, just real quick, after I ask a few questions to Anya, please feel free to ask Anya any questions that come to your mind, all right?
All right.
Cool. So, Anya, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's been since September. Obviously, massive changes have happened since then with both the NWHL and TXHT. But we're not going to talk about TXHT's changes. We're going to talk about the NWHL. Since we've talked, you've had the partnership between the New Jersey Devils and the Metropolitan Riveters. And now you have the Pegula family, who own the Buffalo Sabres and the Buffalo Bills, purchasing the Buffalo Buttes. With those two major things happening, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, obviously the first thing that comes to mind is that we just feel like that's a massive step forward. And, I don't know if you saw a couple of the blurbs that I was saying about the Devils partnership. It takes a strong group to lean forward and say, okay, this is an equal and viable place for hockey. And then with the purchase of the Buttes from the Pegula family, I mean, it's just legendary, and being involved with such an iconic group in the Buffalo area and having them, lean forward and say, one Buffalo, let's work together, let's build an empire, kind of sort of that they're doing in Buffalo. I mean, it's a huge step forward for women's hockey, but it's a massive step forward for the people that are seeing our dreams and are really helping us realize them.
All right, and real quick, Dixon says, welcome back, Anya. Shaggy goes, Anya with an exclamation point. Fanboy levels at all-time high, head explodes.
Well, I love them.
So Shaggy's head has already exploded, and you've only talked about maybe a couple minutes. And Shaggy and Dixon, if you guys have questions, feel free to send them in. Anybody who's watching this, please feel free, join the chat, send questions. We will ask them, and we will answer them. So Anya, I was talking to your teammate, Sophia, in the first hour, and we were talking about the standings and what's going on with the Connecticut Whale. For the Connecticut Whale, currently you're in last place. However, if fortune wills it, if the Buttes lose today to the Boston Pride, and then you beat the Buttes on next Sunday, the 14th, you can get yourself out of last place and move up potentially into second place, depending on how other things happen. What are your thoughts on your team's current standing, and what do you think your team can do to improve this season?
So, first and foremost, I like nothing more than to be an underdog, have someone count you out and then show up and be completely blown away. I think a lot of times in a 4-team league, it's not really indicative of your skill. It's just how the games shake out. But when it comes to what we need to be successful, what we need to fire on all cylinders, it's a lot of it is just teamwork. I mean, some of the goals against it we have are just our team not operating as one unit. And I think once we clean up that problem, we'll be in a much better position to kind of eradicate some of those issues, to play like a team and to have the right back checkers, to not let odd man rushes kind of disrupt our plan. So I think that would be our biggest two calling cards moving forward.
Right, and when you look at the rest of the league, one team that has not really done well in the past the first two seasons is now undefeated, and that's the Metropolitan Riveters. What do you think has been a big key behind their success this season?
I think that one of the big things is I've never counted the Riveters out. I've always thought they were really good. We've always kind of looked at the other teams and been like, oh, look at this Olympian or that Olympian. Well, now we're looking at a team that has always historically played together and been that non-Olympian team, and they're finally making it all work, making all of their plays kind of come to fruition. But that team has been mostly the same in the last 3 years.
Yeah, and you mentioned Olympians. They just announced the women's Olympic team. One player who was a teammate of yours last season and then went to Boston Pride this season and then left for the Olympic team, which is Haley Skarupa, who's a Rockville, Maryland native. And real quick point, and George, you'll get a good laugh out of this one. Haley Skarupa, I've been talking about her for over a year on this show, along with the NWHL. And all of a sudden now, Russian Machine Never Breaks decides they want to do a post about her.
Nice.
So TXHT has been talking about the National Women's Hockey League for now 3 years, or 3 seasons, and have been talking about Haley being how she's a Rockville, Maryland native for over a year, and now they talk about her. Funny, eh? Welcome to how DC coverage is done on hockey.
Right.
So, nothing against Novacaps. I know you guys are cool. So, that's why I have you on. Yeah, go for it, Anya.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. You were talking about the Olympians and one of my teammates. I'm assuming it's Skarupa?
Yeah, it was Skarupa. We were talking about, George and I were joking about how I've been talking and covering the NWHL for now 3 seasons. And I've been talking about Haley for almost a little over a year now. And once the Olympic team was announced for Haley, a blog that is considered the #1 blog of the DC area decided that they're going to talk about women's hockey and talk about Haley because she's from Rockville, Maryland.
Oh, there you go. Well, Haley's a great player. She's a great person. I mean, I think she's, one of those ones that, puts the team first and really has a great attitude when it comes to, hockey. She's always the one that's, first in the rink, last out. And, we're all just proud that she got the opportunity to go back. She stayed with it and played for the WHL in Boston. She was armed and dangerous to when she got the call up. And we were all super proud of her. I mean, just being a teammate, it's fun to see somebody that you practice with, you pushed, you kind of watch grow and develop, make that roster. So, hats off to her. She's always been a great player. She always knows how to find the back of the net, but she never stopped chasing her dream, and I think that that's a huge story within itself.
Now, real quick, before I ask my next hockey question, are you going for Dunkin' Donuts right now? Because there's a lot of wind.
Yes, you know me too well. Sorry, guys, I just stepped out of the car to grab a coffee.
see, we know Anya so well. But my next hockey question is, and real quick, Shaggy, TXHT over RMNB? Yes. Well, being how TXHT beat RMNB in an actual hockey tournament and beat them for the championship, yeah, I would say TXHT over RMNB any day. But going back to the Olympians, two players who were in the NWHL last year that we all figured for the Olympic team were Megan Bozek and Alex Carpenter. They did not make the team. Do you think that they can end up back in the NWHL this season?
I mean, I obviously hope that they would find a home, that made them feel comfortable. And a lot of times, I can appreciate taking some time away from hockey. It's your lifelong dream, not coming to an end, but for lack of a better term, it's that team, that roster that they're fighting for, and that one dream, one goal. And when that doesn't really occur, I can see why, they might want to take some time away, and whether that's finding their time growing the sport on a different avenue, or, coaching, or running camps, or, maybe even coming back and playing. All of it would be, at their pace, however they want to get back involved. And our biggest goal in the NWHL is to support the growth and development for our players. And if that means on a on-ice perspective, Bozek comes back to the Buttes, then obviously we're all for it. But if it means her taking some time away, then we understand her needs there too.
And then real quick, Shaggy goes, I was there for that. Let them be bitter, LOL, in regards to this show beating Russian Machine Never Breaks in their own tournament. Shaggy, you should also know, because you're the one who assisted on my game-winning goal in the championship game too. But then Shaggy also has a question for you, Anya, which is, what is your favorite Dunkin' Donuts coffee?
Honestly, I could probably have one of everything on the menu, but my go-to is a cold brew black. And formerly, it was a dark roast with some caramel swirl and an extra shot, which Brittany Ott and I share that love. So we used to get each other coffees before every other game. When I was there, she'd get me one. When she was in Connecticut, I'd get her one. So I stick with the cold brew black now, but I got to throw it back to Otter because we were always coffee buddies.
I'm lame. I just go for a hot chocolate. But
well, every now and then I throw in a coffee roll, which is a natural best choice because Dunkin' Donuts are out of this world. But I get a lot of flack for calling a coffee roll a donut. So
yeah, but going back to some more NWHL talk. Sophia didn't want to fuel the rumor mill because we were talking about potential expansion because of a result of the Pagulas and the partnership with the Devils. And one thing I have to say is, it's great. I hope it does lead to expansion. Team in DC, please, all the way. I can actually then work for you guys. That would be awesome. Calling games if you need me to. But one big question is, there's an All-Star game coming up, and we haven't heard an announcement of where it's going to be.
Well, that's the drama, right?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Sophia didn't want to...
on our toes at the NWHL.
Yeah, so Sophia didn't want to put out a rumor. Dan Rice did the appropriate tweet, because I agree with him on this. It's like, can the NWHL please announce where the All-Star game is going to be? So people who have second jobs have to take the appropriate time off. So
I'm with you because I'm in the same boat, right?
But I can tell you this: when it comes out, everyone's going to be pumped because it's going to be a huge deal. I mean, it's been such a busy time for the NWHL. We've done so many different things, just to grow the game, and it's been a huge success for us. And when it comes to announcing the All-Star game, we really wanted to make sure we locked in the right market, we locked in the right group. And I think when it comes out, everyone's going to be like, oh, this is why it took so long, and really understand our vision there.
Now I know that Shaggy right now is excessively fangirling over you being on right now. You'll probably see a lot of his tweets from the show a little bit later on. But I can tell you right now, if it's in DC, his head will legitimately explode. He'll show up, and then his head will just explode into confetti, just for you guys. So, just throwing that out there. Now, this past weekend, you had the game against the South Korean national team. I talked to Sophia a little bit about it, but I wanted to get your comments on that. What was that like for you?
They are phenomenal skaters. Skill-wise, skate-wise, they just have great strides, and I thought that was pretty amazing. I stood on the line when we were singing the national anthem, and I turned to Stephanie Mock because we line up by number, and she's 5 and I'm 4. So I turned to her and I go, "Isn't it amazing that this team could be Olympic bound?" And she said, "Yeah." I mean, it's watching the growth and development of women's hockey on all platforms, whether it's overseas, whether it's in China, whether it's in South Korea, whether it's wherever it is, right? It's inspiring. It's wild to me that somebody who has a vastly different life has the same dream, and they're getting the capability to do so and perform and try it and come here and play us. So I was like taken aback. It was pretty impressive, and in all honesty, I give that team a lot of credit for a young new team. They were pretty good.
Yeah, and then obviously coming up soon, you have the U.S. national team taking on Team NWHL, which weirdly the Whale only has one player representing them. First off, what's it like to have this little 2-game exhibition series, but at the same time only have one player from the Whale representing the team?
Yeah, I mean, that's the weekend that we'll be in Pittsburgh hosting a game against the Buttes. So fortunately for us, only losing one player, even though it is Kelly Babstock, is we're not super bummed about it. We're excited that we got to keep our goalie and some of the other players that are going to help us win that regular season game. But when it comes to that series and getting that nod from USA Hockey to say, hey, this is going to help us prepare, and this is a partnership we're willing to explore, I mean, that's huge because we were so supportive of the U.S. women's national team in their bout for equality and working with that USA Hockey and national team programs, and watching Hockey Canada give support to the CWHL. All these different programs getting involved just shows that they see us as a viable feeder, and I think that that's massively important because as people go on their Olympic dreams, they're going to look to the NWHL and USA Hockey in these games to say, that's the right place that I want to be, and that's where I want to be, harnessing my best game.
Right. George, I know you're not really too familiar with NWHL as I am, but did you have any questions that you'd like to ask Anya?
Did she pick me up a donut at Dunkin' Donuts while she was there?
Yes, and obviously. It'll be a little bit until I get over there to you guys.
Yeah. That's really great that and the NWHL seems like it's really growing and everything, and I'm so glad to hear it. Anytime you hear about hockey growth and everything, that's one of the best things you can hear, or at least for me personally anyway, so I'm glad to hear it, and good luck with your respective season and everything. It's really good stuff.
I would definitely have to say, George, we'll have to get Russell involved too. If the NWHL ever does a press game where the NWHL All-Stars just beat up on the press, which I'm perfectly okay with, we got to play in that. Yeah, you're just like, I'm going to die.
No, I think it's phenomenal. I really like it, and any time that hockey can grow, at all levels, it's magnificent. I hope they do end up expanding. That'd be wonderful. I would definitely, if they came to DC too, that I would definitely go to a game. That sounds a lot of fun.
Yeah, because you're in Richmond, Virginia.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're like 2 hours away from where I am.
Yeah.
So you'd have to do quite a journey anyways.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but tomorrow, though, Anya, you take on the Metropolitan Riveters 3 p.m. That is the Twitter game of the week, if I'm correct. Anya? Uh-oh. No, Anya's still there. I think we lost Anya. Either that or she's ordering her coffee. So, okay, real quick, George.
Yes. Yeah.
While I wait for Anya to get her coffee, because I think that's what's happening. Looking at what's going on, you saw the Olympic roster for the men's side of things. What are your thoughts on seeing some of the college kids? Obviously, the last two goalies have not been announced yet. They're holding off until I believe January 11th to announce them. Or later January 11th is when Team Canada is announcing their team. What are your thoughts on the U.S. men's team?
I feel that the men's team might, it's going to be a challenging year this year, and I feel that it's disappointing still that that the NHL wasn't able to get a deal done and go to the Olympics this year, but it's might be an uphill battle for them because Canada, they've got a ton of talent and everything. It's going to be really difficult this year for them, I think. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully they can go over there and maybe have some upsets. But I think it might be a little bit of a challenging year for them.
All right. Well, first off, I'm one of the people who is 100% for no NHL players in the Olympics. I like the idea of not shutting down the league for a month. That's just me. But Anya, are you back?
I am.
All right, yeah. We were joking about a potential press game, which George had the look on his face of like, I'm probably going to die if that happens. But what are your thoughts on? Oh man, I just lost my train of thought.
On the men's Olympic team.
No. I wasn't asking about the men's Olympic team.
All right. Peace of mind.
I had something else in mind. Shaggy and Dixon. Yeah. Thank you, Dixon. See, this is why we have Twitch and we have a chat room with the stream. This is awesome. I asked you, Riveters versus Whale is the NWHL Twitter game of the week. How has that relationship with Twitter been for the National Women's Hockey League?
Oh, it's been awesome. I mean, having our games broadcast globally is outstanding to begin with, but just working with Twitter to verify all our players and kind of give us the respect we deserve. I mean, it was a huge step forward, and I'm so proud that we were able to lock it up. But just even engaging with Twitter's executives via Twitter, it was pretty cool to see them get involved and see them start tweeting about us, and being the second women's league to get that Twitter game of the week status and kind of following up an outstanding reception of the WNBA. It clearly has helped us move forward and really, pronounce ourselves as the premier women's hockey league that's going to move the needle on the sport of women's hockey. And I think that Twitter giving us that opportunity was huge. And engaging on Twitter is my favorite thing. I mean, that's how we got linked up. Twitter is most definitely my favorite platform in engaging with my fans or the fans of the league. Or people just even asking questions. I mean, I've responded to people that are asking, how do I get tickets, or where do I do this or that? Those have all been things that we've used Twitter as a vehicle for, and I couldn't be more impressed with, the partnership and how it's helped us.
Yeah, and how do you now? How long is this deal with Twitter? I don't remember if we asked that question when you're on in September or not. But about how long is this deal for? Is it just for this season as a trial, or is it a longer term deal?
I think that those conversations will be had as we get closer towards the end of the year. so I don't, want to speak out of turn. I don't have all of the particulars about it. I don't work on the partnership side of the house. We have somebody that runs that. I kind of just am the rah-rah person once we lock it up, and I make sure that the league's on board and the players are on board and they understand how it will, affect them in the current moment. So, sorry, but definitely not the best point of contact there.
All right. You are the director of Players Association. You have some knowledge of things, so
yep.
It doesn't hurt to try asking.
There you go. A lot of times it's just a smoke and mirrors game. I just tell you what I think I know.
I remember in the press release for the Pagulas buying the Buttes that one of the key points that the NWHL made in their press release was the fact that one of the goals is to expand to 6 teams in the next 1 to 2 seasons. On the Players Association side of things, what type of conversations have been had in regards to the addition of 1 to 2 teams, and at least for maybe just next season, like maybe just one team next season, another team in the next year, to get to that 6 teams. What type of conversations have been going on about that since the Pagula purchase?
I mean, we have had the same message moving forward. There's been, a lot of changes with the Pagulas and with the Devils and different people getting involved. But first and foremost, our message has always been, we want these certain benefits. We want these certain, basically we've always kind of asked for the same type of respect for our players. Whether I represent 100 or we add 2 teams and I represent 150, we haven't changed our tune all that much.
All right. Are there any particular places you'd like to see expansion happen to? Any particular 1 to 2 cities, if you had the opportunity to choose?
Well, obviously, I would say Washington D.C. because naturally, I think we have a great group there already. Outside of you guys and how awesome you guys have been covering and talking about the league and getting the message out there early. We also have a lot of fans, and I think a lot of them are Riveters fans. I know there's a couple in particular that I'm kind of alluding to, so I hope they hear this, but there's a lot of people in that DC metro area that have been hugely supportive of women's hockey. I travel there a lot for work, and every time I post something that I'm there, I get a lot of, oh my gosh, you're in our neck of the woods, blah, blah, blah. So it's just so exciting to see people in different markets, pop, and I think that that's a great place to start looking at it. That's just kind of my thinking there.
See, I don't get those messages. I'm obviously not special enough to know when you're down in my neck of the woods.
Yeah. Well, they're there. There are some people that really love the NWHL down in that area, which I love. And then my next couple places that I think would be a really huge success, and I think a lot of it comes to are we looking at a drive distance, or are we looking at maybe expanding to having an airline get on board and kind of believe in our dream? But if it's a drive distance, then it makes it a little bit more challenging. But if we're looking at places that I think are just ready for hockey, I would have to say Minnesota is a great spot. They have an independent team that performs really well. They play a bunch of men's programs. They feed the U.S. women's national team pretty heavily. So I think that area is obviously mature and ready. There was some rumblings about Detroit and the Detroit metro area getting involved, just on social, not necessarily internally, but externally. They're making some pushes to have Division I women's hockey, and I think that that's huge. So that would be another spot that I love, and I really love all 3 of those areas. I genuinely think that they're great hockey areas. They're great USA Hockey feeder areas, and I think that those would be some pretty cool spots to start to grow in the U.S. And keep it really true to the hockey towns.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to let you guys promote yourselves real quick, but I got to do one last plug on my end. Looking for the latest hockey cards that have come out, or looking for some hockey statues or pop vinyls, then no worries. My friend Donald at Just Hockey Cards has all of your needs. For more information on deals and what Donald can do to help you with your collection, email him today at blake4av@aol.com. And for those who are interested, who are in the DC area, he will be at the Laurel Garden Ice House in Laurel, Maryland from January 12th to 15th for the Big Bear Ice Hockey Tournament. Again, his email is blake4av@aol.com. He helps me with my hockey card collections, and he can definitely help you out too. And with that, I let Sophia go first, so this time I'm going to let George go first. So, George,
Yes.
promote yourself and promote Nova Caps.
Okay, so I'm on Twitter at CanucksFan56. You can find me on there. Obviously, you can go to NovaCaps.com. Find us on our Facebook page at NovaCaps, on our Twitter feed at Nova_Caps, and on Instagram at Nova_Caps. And Michael, I believe that we're going to have another watch party coming up.
Yes, you are, in Sterling.
Fun watch party on February 2nd. It's going to be at the Miller's Ale House in Sterling, Virginia. The fundraising is for the lab rescue of the LRCP, so it's a really good cause to come out and watch the Capitals. I think they're taking on the Penguins that night.
They are.
So you can come on out bring your friends, and it's going to be a really great evening and support the fundraising cause as well. So
maybe a TXHT takeover could happen.
Yes, that would definitely.
And maybe you'll show up.
I hope I can somehow fit it up into my schedule. Yes.
And with that, Anya, where can the people find you on social media and hype up your game tomorrow? It's a big game.
Well, everyone can find me at Battaligno A. I have all my handles are the same, so BATTAGLINOA at Twitter, Instagram, anything you can think of it. And more importantly, follow the NWHL. Watch the Riveters game, watch the Whale game. Obviously, root for the Whale because, come on. And, get involved. The biggest thing that helps us grow is people like yourselves getting involved, watching a game, tweeting at us, coming to a game, buying a jersey, any of that. Even if it's just to tweet that our game is going on, it's the awareness, it's the breadth, it's the depth, it's everything we need. So follow me, but follow the league. If anything else, follow the league. Follow the league and cheer for the Whale. That's all I ask.
And real quick, if you go to the NWHL store, you can get the inaugural jerseys, and you can get this season's jerseys. And I have to admit,
and I'm wearing one out playing pond hockey today, so yeah. I think they're pretty sweet.
So I know you're still wondering when I'm going to get my Whale jersey, but it'll happen in 600. It'll happen in 600 years.
There you go. Well, in 600 years, they'll be, bigger, badder, and better, and you're gonna look great.
I'll also probably be like in the ground 6 feet under at the same time too. But
no.
But thank you both of you for coming on. Also, I want to thank Russell and Sophia for coming on in the first hour for this Twitch debut for TXHT. Obviously, as a lot of people know, and Anya, now you get to hear what happened. But George, you already know about what happened. So does Russell. But back in November, it was mutually agreed upon between WBGR Sports Network and X75 Productions, which produces the show, to part ways. There were business reasons for it. I've always had a vision of how this show is to be. Obviously, what you have seen today is a huge part of what that vision that I have. WBGR had been trying to change the show in a way that I did not like. They're trying to force changes that I did not like, and so it was a more benefit where, I take the show and I take it to a place where I can have it be what it needs to be, and that is serious hockey talk, serious hockey fans, get people like Anya and Sophia on who play in the Women's Hockey League, which I hope they get more players on as well throughout the rest of the season, because there's only a few months left before the playoffs. Getting guys like George on. I know George, you were on with WBGR when we were on WBGR2, but you also didn't see all the behind the scenes stuff that we discussed about off air, which is the bigger changes that we didn't like. So we all hope that everyone enjoys this. We come back next week on Saturday at 11 a.m. It'll be Saturdays at 11 moving forward. Today was a special 2-hour deal where we wanted to make a footprint here on Twitch to say we are here and we are here to stay, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing this. So, Caps play again when, George?
They play tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, tomorrow. And see, this is what happens when they haven't played since Tuesday. We forget when they play. So,
yes, they got a tough matchup tomorrow versus the St. Louis Blues,
who play Philly at 1 o'clock.
Yes, they play Philly today, and I guess they'll train down to DC. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but it'll be a tough matchup against the St. Louis Blues. Obviously, they're one of the top teams in the Central Division, so the Caps
they're number 3, I believe, on the standings.
Yeah. So once again, the Caps need to be ready to play, and we'll come out with a lot of energy tomorrow.
Yep, and ladies and gentlemen, don't forget you can join the Patreon community, or the TXHT Patreon community. Today we do have exclusive content that we do put up. We are now on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/TXHT Hockey. We are now broadcasting off and on DCHL games, most of which you'll see me actually playing in them. And I'm still waiting for you, George, to chime in on them. And on patreon.com/TXHT Hockey, this episode will be up there, as well as other future episodes, and all of our past episodes are up there as well. Stay tuned for exclusive content as we get back into doing that, since we are now into the new year. Start getting people like Dan Rice, Ted Starkey, yourself, George, and others for those Patreon exclusives. And with that, George and Anya, thank you again for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Michael. It's been great.
And then Russell and Sophia, thank you again. And oh, by the way, Sophia says hi, Anya.
Hi, Sophia. And guys, if you're watching the Caps game tomorrow and you're at home, split that screen and watch the end of the NHL game as well.
Yep. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, until next week at 11 a.m. here on Twitch, we will see you on the ice.